right, our last one for energy, our last set of learning targets for energy is all about ATP. And the next set will be about enzymes. And so ATP is a molecule that has 3 parts. It is made of a 5-carbon sugar. It is made of, I'm going off to the top here, 3 phosphate groups. And then it has an adenine. Adenine is familiar. It's one of the nitrogenous bases. And so this is ATP. You may also see it with guanine, in which it would be GTP, or cytosine, it would be CTP. And sometimes AP likes to throw a curveball like that to you. I don't want you to ever freak out if you see GTP. It's the same thing. It does the same job as ATP. It's just not used as often. So if you see that, just in your mind, translate it to ATP. All right, so the 3 parts are your 5-carbon sugar, your adenine, and your 3 phosphate groups, which is where we get that triphosphate. The function of ATP is to store energy. It's smaller amount of storage than, say, glucose. Glucose would be like $100 bill. ATP would be like a dime or a quarter. And so it's going to allow the cell to store little bits of energy. So when it needs just a little bit of energy, it doesn't want to have to break down a whole big old glucose, right? If you just need to go buy a pack of gum, you don't want to use a $100 bill. And so this is kind of what ATP does. It's going to be more readily available to the cell than something like glucose. It says, I can explain the ATP-ADP cycle. So what happens, and I'm going to use another sheet of paper here to kind of cover up, is when the cell needs energy, when it needs to do some kind of process, some endergonic process, what it's going to do is it's going to break off that 3rd phosphate, okay? And so that 3rd phosphate is going to come off over here. Separate. And so when it breaks that bond, that energy that was in that bond is released, and the cell can use that energy to do whatever it needs to do. Mitosis, meiosis, grow, divide, whatever it needs to do. Make more organelles, do active transport, all that good stuff. If it still needs more energy, it can actually cut off another phosphate. So now we have 2 phosphates floating out here, not attached, and we've released even more energy. Now the most energy is in that 3rd bond, or the bond between the 2nd and 3rd phosphates. So you don't get as much energy when you break off that 2nd phosphate. And this is going to take you down to AMP. So when you break off 1 phosphate, you go to ADP, where D stands for di, which means 2. When you break off 2 phosphates, you go down to AMP, where M stands for mono, which means 1. Okay, so this is AMP because it has 1 sugar. It's not holding a whole lot of energy. Now let's say, okay, you've just eaten a big meal, so now your body's getting all this energy in it. You're doing cellular respiration, and you're getting that energy back. What you'll do at that point is you will build this bond back and make ADP. And then you'll build that 3rd bond back and go back to having ATP. So again, most energy is here, but you can break this bond and get some more energy if you are energy starved. The last I can statement for this is I can explain what energy coupling is. Energy coupling is when you do, this would be an exergonic reaction, breaking that off. Okay, that's going to release energy. So it releases energy, which is the definition of exergonic. And you use that energy to then power an endergonic reaction. And so all energy coupling means is that you do an exergonic reaction to release energy, and you use that to then, you couple that with an endergonic reaction. So the exergonic reaction powers the endergonic. And most of the time, that exergonic reaction is the breaking off of ATP to make ADP. And so that's energy. That's ATP's job, is to store that energy so that when the cell needs it, it can break that bond, release that energy, and use it to do the processes that it needs to do. And so that's ATP, the ADP-ATP cycle, and what energy coupling is. I hope that helps, but if not, if you've still got questions, let me know.